Alright, it is 9:28 a.m., 2 minutes before the market open on a Monday. Today is the first day of November, and this is the main watch list, although I do have some listed stocks that I will have in consideration on the other screen, but I won't necessarily focus on listed stocks, especially right now in the morning when I feel like I do best with morning panic bounce plays. But there are some listed stocks, and I generally like to focus on OTCs overall. IND could try to reverse at any point and maybe continue a run up. Ideally it doesn't just have 2 up days, a red day, and then it just starts downtrending. It won't necessarily be very nice. Ideally this thing can run and offer a lot of opportunity, but who knows? And if it does have a very clean looking morning panic, I might try that setup. CUBV had a nice run up at the end, near the end of the day yesterday. Well, the last trading day on Friday, and maybe it can try a continuation. And then I would like to maybe perhaps do something around VWAP and AABB. This one's having a little bit of a gap up. I'd like to see this one also uptrend and maybe do something off of VWAP as well. This one could be a morning panic bounce play, even though it was only up 2 days. If it does something really clean. Not too ideal because it did have a gap up, but yeah, that's what I'll be looking at for right now. Alright, it is 9:46, and I had one attempted trade. It didn't go through, and then I had one actual trade with AABB. As for CUBE, this was an attempt at morning panic bounce play at 9:34, which was right here. Now, I didn't like how weird it was trading, a bit wicky, trading with a large spread, and I'm starting to think that when the stock really does that and it trades with such a large spread and it looks like a morning panic bounce play, it might actually be a short setup, because when they trade with such a large spread, it just means that they're desperate, I think, trying to get it to uptrend, and they're just not able to. But at 9:34, I was interested in it at what was it, 213 right here, and I just didn't get executed. I don't think I was quick enough, or I just didn't get executed here, where it has this drop right, tries to come back, heads right towards VWAP, which I don't like, and then it had this downtrend here. It made this wick, and then it closed here, and then it made another move for VWAP, right? And then right here it made one more drop. It didn't break this wick right here, but it got pretty close to it, so it was almost like at the time it was trying to put up this level as a low of the day, maybe trying to make a move towards the upside. So I was interested in it at 213. And then this candle, it immediately went towards VWAP, and I would have probably have considered selling there, especially because it's putting up lower highs, and it's just like being so ugly, bouncing back and forth between near the bottom of the range towards VWAP. So I would have considered selling there, and if not, I definitely would have cut for losses here at 936, and that would have been super tiny, because the lowest they got to was 209, and then the entry at 213. That wasn't bad at all. So and it did try to one more time, right? But it was just losing momentum. It did fade away, and it might try to turn around at some point. But because it was only up just 1 day, I know it doesn't have to work out the setup. So I stopped looking at it after that attempted buy. Seeing that the candle after that, it tried to make a move towards VWAP, and then it had this red candle here. Here's an example of a morning panic bounce like that just didn't work. Trades with a large spread, quickly spikes towards VWAP multiple times, putting up lower highs, and then on top of that, it was only up 1 day. And I did trade AABB. Unfortunately, I didn't really sell that well, but that's something I have to work at. At least I pushed myself to trade this. I was watching this. I guess this is what, I forgot who, but some people call it the dip and rip, right? Where it kind of has this little drop. It has a, well, in this case it was a gap up, so it was never red, but it has this drop, and then it holds support, and then it turns around. They call that the dip and rip. Anyway, I was actually interested in shorting it at one point because it kind of broke under VWAP. It had a gap up, so maybe it wasn't really a solid foundation, because it had that big gap up, right? So it has this little drop under VWAP, and then maybe I thought it can maybe try to bounce back and try to hold above VWAP, but maybe be lower than this range right here, and then it falls again. And I was switching back and forth between my regular account and my short selling account. but I knew it could also be a breakout in that dip and rip thing that I just mentioned. So it wasn't until this level right here that it actually broke it and made a move towards the upside. I did get in at 943, so this was just like a high day breakout setup. The third day, and that third day it was a gap up, so it's not completely ideal, but you know, it could be worse. Definitely I've traded worse than that. So 943 I'm in, and that is 1742, so right about here, give or take. Yeah, right here, 943, and it looks like I just barely held for a minute. Yeah, 944.28. I sold the next minute at 1758. So right about here was my sell, and immediately when I sold, it did make a move towards 17.6, and then it got as high as it did, which was 17.97, or I guess what, 17.98. So it did have more room. I did sell because it looks like it might be topping. There was that wick, as you can see right there, but it did continue just a little bit more, but it's fading now. If this thing trades off a VWAP, I might consider it, but this one isn't that ideal because again, it had like a gap up. It would have been nice if it maybe had a tiny gap up, but a move from 15 to 17, you know, I think that's pretty big. But I'll continue to watch this. IND hasn't done anything. I'm gonna remove it. I'll keep looking at AABB. Maybe it can do like a higher low off of VWAP, but again, a little sketchy because it had that gap up. So that's what I have in mind. I'll keep looking, and I think there was one more. This one was a morning panic bounce play. I'm not sure if it was this one. I guess it didn't turn out to look that nice, but at the moment it was looking like it was going to do something. Or that, if it's not that, I just had the wrong one. No, it was probably this one. Alright, yeah. Just in theory, that move here with AABB, and that failed move with the other one. It didn't work out with CUBV. It could turn around at any point, sure, but again, it's not ideal. It's not high risk reward if you ask me, because it was only up one day. Alright, it is 10:15, and I had a second trade with HTZZ. This one really practiced my patience because of how long it was taking for it to play out. But what was the idea? Well, it was like a second green day. I know it looks way up in this chart, but this is a big green day, first green day if you ask me. And here's the second one. It's trying to do this breakout over the wick here, which is when it went from OTC back to a listed stock. And right, because I don't think this is an OTC. No, I think it might have been, yeah, it turned into an OTC. I think it's still an OTC right now because there's no NASDAQ people on the level 2. This is still an OTC, but that's when it transitioned from a listed stock to an OTC, I believe, and it looks like it's trying to break past that wick. But my setup was this, you know, it has this spike, nice spike from 32 to what, 34, and then it has this first dip under VWAP. Okay, so you know, my idea is that alright, this thing can't continue the uptrend, break past VWAP, and then put up maybe ideally a higher high from here, or maybe a double top, and then make another dip under VWAP that's higher than this level. But this one took a really long time to play out, so I was in at 10:04. It shows that I held for 11 minutes, but it felt like 20. 10:04 was my entry right after we had this little wick right here, looking like it might try to turn around because this thing was downtrending. Here's a wick towards the downside, and then it bought itself back up. 33 was a very, excuse me, there's a lot of, you know, people at 33 on the bid. So I'm in here at 10:04, which was right here at 33.09 right here, and there was just way too many people like selling at 33.05. Let me get some water. My voice sounds like it's about to die. Okay, so even though there was like a lot of people at 33.10, There was actually just green prints going through at 33.05, and there was a lot of support at 33 and sometimes 33.01, and I was ready to cut losses immediately if it breaks 33. In theory, I was risking 32.83. So let me just see. I had 10 shares. 32. What is this? Yeah, 32.83, give or take. So that would have been 328, and then I'm in at 33.09. Okay, so I didn't actually risk $8. I risked just $2 or something very small like that. So I probably should have went a lot larger, maybe 50 shares instead of 10. So that's something I need to work on just before I enter a trade, to make sure I have my proper dollar risk level, position size, because this was a setup that I thought was really worth it. And yeah, it was super sketchy again, because 33.10 was at the ask, and all of these prints were going through at 33.05, and it just wouldn't break past it until it did. Like when it felt like it was probably not going to do it, and in my downtrend it did. It broke through. You can see right here, this candle went to 33.06, and then it continued to uptrend. And don't forget, I'm in at 10.04 the time period, so I was in and I held through all of this, which felt like forever. And then it started the uptrend, right? And then I took a sell at 10.15 because I felt like it was topping. 33.46 was my sell. I don't know how the hell did I sell at 33.46. It's not even like in the candle. I guess that's where I sold at 30. What? 33.46. Yeah, that. Maybe I need to reload the chart. 33.46. Okay, there we go. That makes sense. At 10.15. Alright, now it shows there on the wick. Yeah, okay. So I did pretty much top ticket. I mean, 33.47 was just very top, but I just didn't like how it was trading. It was just a bit weird. It's not like a low priced OTC where it might look a little better. It was looking clean, but just the price action was sketchy, especially some playing around in the level 2, and I did sell there, and it looks like I was pretty right to sell there. What I did wrong is not trade large enough. It just felt like it was going to turn around immediately, so I didn't want to be like late, you know, and miss the setup, but it took a super long time. Instead, maybe I should have added to my position while I was just trading between this level, although it was like super sketchy, and then, you know, have my proper risk level. If it were to have broken that, I would have lost $8, and then I would have been more profitable in this trade. I did everything well, so I didn't risk you know, properly. I didn't have a size accordingly, and I need to, because then when I take a full size risk level loss, it's not going to help out if I have a setup like this where I didn't size in appropriately. But that was the setup there. You know, I can continue to try to hold 33 and maybe eventually break towards VWAP. AABB kept uptrending, but alright, I might have considered shorting this head and shoulders looking thing here, but it was just so sketchy the way it was trading. But there was definitely a lot of room for profit to trade this. I just kind of got thrown off, yeah. And then I was looking at HTZZ, so I'll make an update later. But yeah, that's 2 trades. I just should have went larger on HTZZ. Alright, it is 10:39 and I want to make an update. I don't really see any setups that I'm really interested in. There's nothing that I really like, but I'm gonna keep looking. Maybe there's another stock out there that has some kind of a pattern that I would like to maybe trade. I want to make an update with AABB. This could have been, in theory, if I was watching it when it was happening, a head and shoulders. Here's the head, shoulder. Shit, here was the shoulder, head, shoulder. And this one was one of those examples where it doesn't get any further than the neckline, which was, give or take, this 17.6 level, which was also VWAP. This one did not break it. It could try to break it later, but I'm not going to try to have such a big short seller mentality on something that can maybe try to run for more. But I don't like the way this one trades. The price action is kind of weird. It reminds me of a listed stock, and I don't necessarily like listed stocks that much, but I'll continue to watch this, but again, there's nothing else I want to trade. As for HTZZ, this one is still holding this 33 level. There was one wick here, but it caught itself. Maybe I'll make a move later, but I don't have that patience to hold that long. Imagine being in, right here at 10:03 and a freaking, 10:40, right? I don't want to hold a setup that long. I'm happy that I pretty much top ticked it, but I think that was a pretty good attempt. And it comes to show that even if I didn't sell right here, there would have been just a very small chance that I would have sold for less. I mean, 33.09 was my entry, but this thing just is not like breaking under 33, so it's not like a setup that just immediately failed and fell off a cliff. Alright, it is 3:08 p.m. and I want to make an update. I haven't been looking at this the entire time, but it is uptrending. I just really don't like how this one trades. I get kind of freaked out when they kind of just float off of VWAP and then put higher lows off of that, but this one is trying to make a lot of moves, and my trade was, I think I did better than Friday, though. It was at 9:43, the breakout right here, and a quick sell, and this one did continue the uptrend. This one was nice because it was at least right at VWAP, but I just like how this one had to drop, and then I wanted to drop under it that was a bit higher than this range. I like those a lot, but I'm sure this thing is very profitable to a lot of people. I'm just not necessarily liking the way this one trades per se, and that's totally fine. As for HTZZ, actually this one did get to 34, but this would have not have worked out for me because it broke under this 33 level. That would have definitely have gotten me out of the trade if I was still holding it for some reason or interested in taking another entry. But this one did turn around. At least it did do that. Maybe I could have bought. No, not even the breakout past VWAP would have been kind of nice. Maybe the confirmed breakout, but then this thing is just kind of iffy, and it did skip on air there, so I probably wouldn't have had another entry here. Pretty nice with AABB, although again this thing had a gap up, and I just don't like that because I feel like it's just floating off air and it might downtrend at any point. But this one's doing really nice in that it's like not just continuously uptrending after a gap up, or no attempts to try to fill the gap between the other day, but it's actually not just holding VWAP, but it actually is floating above it. So it's really just best case scenario. There is nothing that I'm really interested in right now, but I'll make an update to see what this one does by the end of the day. But it clearly offered a lot of opportunity. And as for my trades, I did some slight calculations. I should have been double my size on both of these trades if I wanted to go by that $8 risk level. So I have to do better with that. It's just learning basic math, and on top of that, you can always just calculate what your entry and exit would reflect in terms of how much the setup is going to cost. And eventually I think I can get better at it and finding my risk level faster. But that was totally the case here. Just two setups that worked, but I could have done double the size that I traded. Alright, it is 7:45 p.m. and I am here to call it off. I made just like $6, just under $7 maybe, but in both of these setups I should have went double size. AABB, I just didn't like this one because it started to float off of VWAP, and again I had that gap up. I didn't really like it, but this one really worked out. Maybe I'm wrong, but in most cases I tend to see something like this not really work out, but maybe that means that the OTC markets are trying to light up and do something. I have no idea, but it is super nice here, and I will continue to look at it, but I will be more interested in the short setup rather than a long setup, although it can very well try to do more moves towards the upside. Sometimes people look at it as the third green day. Again, I probably don't want to short it, but if it does something obvious, I'll be more inclined to trade it. I should have went just twice my position size and try to hold on to it better, because when I took my entry at 1742 at 943, right about here, there was never another time in the day, I think, maybe here actually just a little bit later, but besides that, there was really no other point in the day when this thing actually ever came back to my entry. So definitely a lot of room for improvement, but I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I should have held longer, because obviously we see this nice price action here, but you know, I think I need to just continue to keep pushing myself and trading better. Maybe just try working on risk reward, not necessarily holding longer. If I can start trading the trades that I take, which in most cases are profitable and they do work out, and I have the proper risk level, that means I have the right size in the trade and I can make more from it. I definitely need to improve there. And as for HTZZ, it actually finished at 34, but again, I don't like the way it broke the 33 level, I believe, and you know, then it came back later. So that's really all I have. AABB was a cool mover. I was just sketched out by it the entire time. And HTZZ, this one really tested my patience. I really held on to this setup for a pretty long time, at least from you know, my perspective. When you know, I'm in most trades, I don't tend to hold that long, but this one I definitely pushed myself to hold longer. I was rewarded for it. I even top ticked it basically here. And yeah, I have a lot of room for improvement, because in both of these setups, once again, I could have went double size. And I'm going to try to continue getting better at holding. Of course, in this case, it was HTZZ. That was totally right, you know, to sell there. So I just need to really right now, and I have 17 things that I should try to work on. I think I should just focus on one with everything that I've already learned, and that is just to try trading larger based off of my dollar risk level. So I'll end it right here. I just need to work on that, and I have a lot of room for improvement.